Thank you for joining us for All Things MSP Live. My name is Eric Anthony. I'll be your host tonight, and we really do appreciate you spending some time with us. Now, you may be asking, what is All Things MSP? We are a community, first and foremost, of MSPs and people around the MSP industry, vendors, subject matter experts, all that kind of stuff, and we're talking about the non-technical side of being an MSP. Now, most of our activity happens in our Facebook group. That's the platform that we've been on the longest. You can join us there at facebook.com/groups/all things MSP. There's about 6,000 members in the group, and somebody is there waiting to talk to you. And we also, if you don't do Facebook, we have a LinkedIn company page. So you can go to linkedin.com/company/all things MSP. Now, last but not least, we also have a YouTube channel. So you can head on over there. This is where you can probably get the best experience watching the live stream because it allows us to interact better through the comments there. But also, we publish a weekly podcast there as well, in addition to publishing it to all of your favorite podcast platforms. But we also post other pieces of content as well. So make sure you go there, you like, you subscribe, you do all the things to make sure you get notified so that you'll know when we post new podcasts, as well as we're doing a new live stream. Now, the live stream is typically every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. We try not to miss it, but sometimes life happens. Okay, we got about 19 seconds left before we start the show. We'll see you there. The views and opinions expressed on this broadcast are those of its participants and do not reflect the views and opinions of any employer, MSP, sponsor, advertiser, or vendor. What's up, All Things MSP crew? Welcome back to our first All Things MSP Live since maybe May. It's been a hot minute. Basically taking some time off for the summer, and that's what we've been doing. So tonight's episode, I thought I would do something that would kind of hit the reset button for a lot of people. And so what I did was I came up with top 10 things that MSPs need to do to crush it in 2025. Now, before we dive into that, a couple of things I just want to mention before we get started. Number one is I will be at ChannelCon 2025. So I hope you're going to be there as well. There's still time to register. The room block for the hotels, as I understand it, has reopened. So there's still an opportunity to register and get the best rate for the hotel. So definitely, this is one of my favorite shows of the year. And it's definitely a place where you're going to see a lot of MSPs, a lot of vendors, a lot of other people in the technology industry. And so check it out. If you decide to register and you haven't registered yet, you can use the code CHAMPS25 to get some kind of discount. I don't remember what it is, but you will get some kind of a discount on the registration fee. And that's simply because I'm a member champion at GTIA. And one of the things that we want to do is promote the GTIA community and make sure that you guys are a part of that. All right. Along with ChannelCon this year, which, by the way, I forgot to mention, it's in Nashville. The hotel is the Gaylord Opryland, which is a great hotel, by the way. So if you're looking for a reason to get away and make it a business expense, perfect opportunity. There is also a community pre-day this year. This is on Monday. And this Henry Tim and the Tech Degenerates have done a lot to put this together and really appreciate what they've done. As you know, GTIA is all about community. And so what they've done here is they've brought together a lot of the communities that are involved all over the MSP space. And that's what this pre-day is for. It's all kinds of topics, great panels. I'm going to be on a panel. I'm on the panel for discussing communities. And I just think this is going to be a great addition to ChannelCon this year, and definitely something that you should check out if you've already made plans. I had to change my plans. I had to change my flights, change my hotel. It's not that hard. Do it. and definitely you'll get something out of it. So consider that if you are already scheduled to go to ChannelCon, or if you're not and you're gonna, make sure you register for the pre-day as well. All of those links I will put into the Facebook community, as well as the LinkedIn here after the show. All right, shout out to a couple of our sponsors. Helped, if you're looking for an outsourced help desk, this is probably the best place to look, in my opinion. You all know how I feel about customer experience. I think customer experience in any service business is a huge differentiator. And in the MSP business, it's doubly so, because not only is it a service business as well, but it also has a lot to do with the trusted status, I guess we'll call it, when it comes to being an MSP. So the experience really matters. And that's what Help does. They focus on the customer experience, not just on closing tickets. I got to talk to David, one of the co-founders, this past week, and he is going to have an update here for us soon. Probably have that out next week. And then Nodeware, if you're looking for vulnerability scanning, vulnerability management, look no further than Nodeware. Just a great option for adding a specific tool to solve that problem. We all know patch management can be a problem. Nodeware definitely is going to help you with that vulnerability scanning management. And one of the things I like about it is it requires very little overhead. And so that's one of the things to check out there. And for either of these sponsors, for Helped, you can go to atmsp.link/helped. And for Nodeware, you can go to atmsp.link/Nodeware. All right, so let's talk about our topic for this evening. The top 10 things MSPs need to do to crush it in 2025. Now, we are in July. We're halfway through the year. We just started Q3. So I think a lot of these things are very relevant right now. Some of them are going to be, I would say, critical for getting done right now, so that you're not backed up against the end of the year and trying to do some of these things and have the experience not be so good for your clients. Okay. If you're here, go ahead and give us a shout in the comments. Let us know you're here. That would be great. And of course, if you have questions, please go ahead and put those into the comments as well. And we will go through those as we go through the slides. And hey, trust me, I love answering questions. So if you have questions about anything, or you even disagree with me, this is meant to be a conversation. Feel free to disagree and let me know your opinions on some of these. Okay, so number one, conduct a client profitability audit. Now, I kind of thought about this one before I put this one in here, because a lot of people are running so fast, and they already predetermined, they did their pricing and packaging to really design profitability into their packages. But I think over time, there is this creep factor that comes in, and you start losing profitability due to inefficiencies, due to a certain client calling about the same ticket over and over again. And so you need to identify when those things are happening. And I think one of the best ways to do that is to look at client profitability, because it allows you to narrow down and look at particular individual clients to fix those problems. And if they can't be fixed, then maybe you need to onboard some of those less than profitable ones. Now, I don't want you to do anything crazy here, okay? Just use some basic data for, from time tracking, from ticket counts, and their overall revenue. I put KISS in here for keep it simple, stupid, or keep it stupid, simple. I like that one better. It's less derogatory. So let's use keep it stupid, simple. And that just means keep it, don't try and go overboard. Don't try and get too detailed. What we're trying to do is really just rate the different clients against each other, right? So that you can find the least profitable ones, and then you can dig into the least profitable ones and get more specific information. And then, once you've done that, then you can plan to offboard them. You can try and fix that problem. You can try and upsell the unprofitable ones. There are lots of ways to fix it without, taking them off board. But, you need to know which ones to address. And that's what this is going to do. And if they can't be addressed in the long run, then, you can show them the road. Now, one of the recommendations that I would make here is, if you can, while you're doing this, go ahead and create the reporting so that you can do this maybe even quarterly. Because if you create the reporting for it, it's a much lower effort than probably the first time you're having to do it. So create, something that you can do repeatably, and it'll help you identify these, because the faster you identify an unprofitable client, the better it is for you and the business. All right. What do we have for number 2? Number 2 is review and adjust your 2025 goals, specifically with a focus on what you can do in Q3 and Q4 to accomplish those things, right? So a couple of things here is really just look at your goals that you've set. Now, this also assumes that you've created goals for each quarter of the year. And if you're using something like EOS or Pinnacle, that is something that you're probably already doing. You're creating your quarterly rocks, and you're working through all of those things in a very systematic way, which I completely believe in, using some type of operating system to run your business. And I actually have a bonus tip at the end that I just read a book. And of course, you guys know you get a tip from me every time I read a book, sometimes multiple. So stick around for that. But in this case, first of all, you should have goals. If you don't have goals, you need to step back and you need to create some. Some people call them OKRs, objectives and key results. But whatever you do, create goals for the quarter. There's also another book that I would recommend when you're creating goals and you're trying to work through the year, and that is the 12-week year. And what happens with the 12-week year is you break the year down into much smaller parts, and it gives you goals that are much closer, and therefore they have more urgency. And the more urgency you drive, the more chance you are going to have to actually accomplish that goal. So it actually treats every week almost like a month. And so you just stay on track better. Read the book, you'll get it. Great book, great philosophy and framework for actually getting things done throughout the year instead of rushing towards the end at the end of Q4. Okay. So basically here, choose 1 to 3 key wins that you can still lock in before the end of the quarter or before the end of the year, so that you make sure that you get those taken care of. All right. Now, take a little break here just to say, if you have questions, go ahead and put them in the chat. If you just want to give a shout out, go ahead and put that in the chat as well. We look forward to answering questions or just having a conversation. Like I said at the beginning of the show, we are all about having conversations here at All Things MSP. And if, by the way, you have not joined the Facebook group, go ahead and join that. That's All Things MSP on Facebook. You do have to be approved once you sign up to join. And so I'm a little bit behind today and yesterday, I think, on approving. So I'll get to those after the show as well. But thank you for all of those who participate. And I want to give a shout out especially to Craig Willard, who has been going over and above lately to post relevant topics and spur some really good conversations in the group. So thank you, Craig. All right. Next up, we want to revisit your 2025 service offering. Now, this is something that you should honestly do every year because as MSPs, we are evolving year after year after year. And there's always things that you might add and things that you might take away, right? It depends on how technology evolves for most of us. But the key here is what got you to this point may not be what gets you to your goals by the end of 2025. And some common ones here, some examples are AI. Of course, everybody's talking about AI. And I think there are some relevant things that people can do to help their clients with AI. Compliance is a huge one. We're just getting more and more industries that are coming in and requiring compliance. So definitely something that every MSP, I think, needs to take a look at. And of course, we still have security. There are lots of new security options to add as well. All right, we do have a comment from Ed Roberts. Our team is reading the 12-week year now. Can that cool that you brought that up? Sorry, new glasses. The progressive lenses don't work as well as the old ones. Anyway, or I just need a bigger teleprompter, one of the two. So yeah, Ed, great book. Really is one of those quintessential, I think, mind change books. It makes you look at your productivity and your time completely differently. All right, next up, we have schedule a price update. Okay. This one's a good one because we all know most MSPs underprice or don't change prices often enough. It's just a reality of where we're at. We tend to undervalue ourselves. Okay. And a lot of times that's where some of these business people turned MSPs have an advantage over the technicians turned MSPs because they understand value and profit a lot better than some of us do. And so this is one of those things where you really need to look at your pricing every single year. And the reason why I want you to do it July, August timeframe is so that you can have it done. You can have your new prices already calculated so that during Q4, you can be having these conversations with your clients so that when January 1 hits and those invoices come out in January, it's not a surprise. Okay. And one of the biggest problems with raising your prices is not doing it with, enough time for your clients to adjust. And it's one of my pet peeves with vendors. It's a pet peeve with clients and their MSPs. Same thing, right? So if you do it soon enough to be able to communicate it early enough, then you're taking away the bite that conversation creates, right? Because if you have that conversation in October and November, and they have 2 or 3 months to adjust before that new invoice hits in January, you know what? That really softens the blow. Plus, it gives you the opportunity to talk to each client rather than just sending out an email to all your clients saying, "Oh, our prices are going up by 15%." No, this gives you an opportunity through that quarter, at least with your larger, more important clients, to cover this in a QBR. Okay. And whether they're quarterly, whatever, I don't care. It's just when I say QBR, everybody understands what kind of meeting I mean. But you can have one of those meetings and cover this topic in one of those meetings. And it's much better to cover this person to person than it is in an email. All right. Number 5, clean up internal tools and documentation. People, this is just house cleaning. It's nothing more complicated than that. A lot of times, just like I said earlier, with the profitability of clients, things creeping in and causing inefficiencies and things like that, that can happen with your tools and your documentation as well. Everything that's undocumented is going to take a technician longer to find or figure out than if it's documented properly the first time around. So documentation is important. Cleaning up messy internal systems. So pick one thing. Don't try and boil the ocean, right? Pick your PSA, your RMM, whatever it is. Pick one thing, maybe per month, maybe per quarter, depending on how much free time you have, and just work on those things. That's working on your business rather than working in your business, which I know you've heard a million times, but it is still true, right? And just cleaning those things up and standardizing and maybe taking advantage of some integrations that you haven't taken advantage of before, but are in those products. Will definitely help. All right, and I forgot to show this while we had the pricing conversation, but Dimitri is saying yes, let's talk pricing. A lot of important stuff to talk about with pricing. I probably could do a whole show on pricing, and if that's true, if you'd like me to do a show on pricing, because there's lots of different ways to do it, and there's lots of nuances, and there is no right way for you. It's whatever works best for you. Okay. Love to have that conversation as well. And of course, as always, you can ask these questions in the Facebook group, and we'd be happy to have a discussion there. Or, sometimes I do, if I have time, I schedule a private session or so to help people out with their pricing or any other questions that they might have, especially if they kind of want to go deeper into them. All right. And next up, do a team pulse check. I can't say this enough. Your team is so important. Now, of course, if you're one of those people, if you're a one-man band, one-man shop, one-woman shop, one-woman band, sorry, this is something that you can ignore for the next 5 minutes. But your team is probably the most important part of your business. And a lot of times we kind of just take them for granted, and just like we take a lot of people for granted, relationships, whatever, and we really shouldn't. And so one of the things you need to do is make sure that your morale is in the right place, that burnout's not going to affect Q4 productivity, because remember, especially as we get closer to the end of the year, you got holidays, you've got goals, revenue goals, whatever to hit by the end of the year, definitely, can cause some morale issues and some burnout. So what we want to do is we want to cut that off early in the year, right? And a lot of times, most people just want to be heard. And so the most important thing you can do, I think, as an employer is have one-on-ones. Now, there is a great podcast. It's old now, but it's still very, very relevant. The website, I believe, is manager-tools.com. And they have what they call their Holy Trinity. And it's one-on-ones, feedback, and coaching. And those are 3 things you need to learn to do as an employer, as a manager, to make sure that you are managing your employees, your direct reports well. I'm not going to go into how they work or anything like that, but definitely check that out. It's manager-tools.com. They've got forms, they've got the podcast recordings that you can listen to, and definitely a great resource for how to really check in with the individual members of your team. Now, this is going to help you to gauge, their goals. And by the way, you should have already done goal setting with your employees, if you have employees, at the beginning of the year, because you can't review them at the end of the year. Listen to this. You cannot review them at the end of the year if you have not given them goals and standards to work by at the beginning of the year. It's not fair to them, and it's going to cause them an unbelievable amount of stress. Okay. And what happens is, if you give them the goals at the beginning of the year, you have one-on-ones with them throughout the year, then there's going to be no surprises at the end of the year when you do your end of the year review. Okay. Because you will have talked about it every single week throughout the entire year, and they'll know exactly where they stand. Reviews will not be stressful. They will not be a surprise, because everybody will know exactly where they stand. Okay. A little bit of a soapbox there. Sorry. But one-on-ones are going to give you that information to how they're feeling and where they are in terms of their goals. And they're going to tell you what they need from you for support. And that's the major thing that you want to get out of a one-on-one, is what did they need to accomplish their goals. And then a bonus, I did this tongue in cheek. If you didn't catch it, throw a pizza party or not. Pizza parties in general, pool tables, that kind of thing in the office. They're nice, but they're really not going to help morale. Okay. Now, buying lunch when everybody's busy, that can help, because that reduces stress, right? Because now they don't have to worry about where their meal is coming from. And it will help in those temporary times where increased productivity is needed. If you are living in that world where you're that busy all the time, you need to address that in different ways. So, keep that in mind as well. Okay, next up, we have update or create a 2025 marketing plan. Okay, tough love here. Do you have a marketing plan? If you don't, you need one. Okay, it doesn't have to be complicated, it doesn't have to be expensive, but you need one because you need a process to follow and you need to be able to measure that process to make sure you're putting dollars in the right place. Now, there's another book. Hold on. This is going to be a big book night. I'm just telling you. The one-page marketing plan. If you don't have this one, it's by Alan Dibb. There's actually examples in here of an MSP. Okay, so it's very relevant to the MSP. It's a very simple system to adopt and use. And so if you don't have one, use this. If you did create one, good on you. Okay. But what you want to do is make sure that you're looking at how that's done throughout the first 2 quarters of 2025 and make any adjustments that you might need to make to improve the success leading up to the end of the year. Okay. Because sometimes doing what you did isn't going to get you where you want to go. And so if the results of your marketing have been a little bit lackluster, then, that's something you should look at. You might also want to consider outsourcing. Okay. I know that's a touchy subject. It can be difficult. But if you have more money than time, it's definitely a place where you can, look into and see if there's any advantage for doing that. And there's some good reputable companies out there. I'm not going to mention any names just because I don't want to be biased, but yeah, reach out to me privately and I'll let you know of a couple. All right. Next up is refine your client experience. I talk about client experience all the time. Okay. I've run workshops on why client experience is so important and the different stages and how you can use the client experience journey to be able to run your business and know where the parts of your business that you need to work on are. Now, most people really don't consider customer experience a big problem. Andrew is asking, the book is called One Page Marketing. It's called the One Page Marketing Plan. Okay. And Alan Dibb, ALLANDIB, is the author. Okay. So basically you want to look at your client experience. And the first way you do this, and I have a book way back there on the shelf, but I won't go grab that because you guys don't need to see me in shorts. And there's lots of different books on client experience and how to build a client experience journey map. Use ChatGPT. It's probably the easiest way, but if you want to look into or research some of the science behind it, you can do that, reading books. But you want to look at specifically probably your onboarding, your QBRs, and your ticket responses. That's probably the 3 places you're going to find, initially, at least until you dig into it more, you're going to find more information about how your clients feel about your business at those different stages. Onboarding, for one, sets you up for success in the long run. Okay. So if your onboarding is bad, the whole relationship is getting off to a bad start. So you want to make sure your onboarding is good. And then QBRs. Why do we do business reviews in the first place? We do business reviews to make sure that we have our fingers on the pulse of the client. If we're not having those types of meetings with clients, it is very easy for clients to drift from us. They have needs. We're not coming to them asking about those needs because they just think we're providing help desk and keeping stuff running. They're not realizing that we can actually help them with their business. And so you need to have QBRs, or however often you do them, to come back together, figure out what their current pain points are, because they will change over time, and help them find technology solutions to those problems. Because here's what happens if you don't. If you don't, somebody else who is looking into those problems from a technology point of view are going to come to them and say, hey, we have a technology that can solve this problem. And by the way, we can take care of all your other stuff too. It's a very easy way to lose a client. So don't lose a client that way. And then ticket responses. Obviously, ticket responses is where you're going to get a lot of feedback. And that's something that you can look at those ticket responses. Really, what I would do here is, if you have the ability, is in your PSA or adding on an extra tool, is to make sure you're getting feedback in terms of either CSAT or NPS. I prefer NPS, Net Promoter Score, and that gives you hard data to look at to see where clients are with their satisfaction in terms of your service delivery, because that's what ticket responses are going to tell you. They're going to tell you how good your service delivery is. Okay. Let's see. We have another question from Demetrius. And he says, how to do a great onboarding experience. So that's more than I can cover in this show. Maybe that's something I can cover in a future show, or I can cover in more of a Facebook post to the group. So I will try and do that relatively soon. It's probably something where I could even run a workshop on it. That's more of a workshop-y kind of thing. But I will definitely take that under advisement, Demetrius, and thank you for the question. All right, number 9, we're getting close, folks. I didn't say this was going to be a long one tonight. So evaluate your vendor relationships. One of the things that is kind of an underlying theme for everything tonight is stuff changes, right? The industry has evolved. Your vendors are going to evolve. Your clients are going to evolve. And all of these things that we've talked about tonight, or at least most of them, have been about change and dealing with that change and making sure that your business is adapting and not getting behind. So why do we need to look at vendor relationships? Because the technology and their tools might change. Somebody else might come out with a better tool that works better for you. So you need to be evaluating new vendors on a semi-regular basis. And the relationship may have gone downhill. Their support may not be as good. Their billing may have gotten worse. All of these things that can, cause you problems, that if you don't look into them on a, fairly regular basis, could cost you money and cost you time, clients, whatever, over the long run. And then the other thing that happens a lot nowadays in this space is vendors get acquired. And we all have had good and bad experiences with this, right? There's one rather famous one. And again, I try and stay agnostic, so I'm not going to mention any names. You all know who they are. With a lot of, especially the larger vendors, being acquired is where good tools go to die. It doesn't happen all the time. I'm not going to pigeonhole one vendor, because at one time or another, every vendor has had this problem, right? Because acquisitions are hard. If you haven't been on that side of the business, and I have, acquisitions are hard and they don't always go well. And I think this is a learning curve that this industry is going through, and I think will improve over time. But it is something you need to consider, right? And when you're looking at your vendors, probably I would look at vendors maybe no more than once a year, and that way you can spread the different vendors out across the year. And so just, review them easy for me to say, review them for performance, for fit, make sure they're still a good fit for your business, because your business may have changed, right? They may not have changed at all, but your business may have changed and you need something more out of that tool. And so you may need to have to go find a different tool. And so you consider new vendors, you can consider renegotiations if your profit is not as good on those tools anymore. You may want to try and renegotiate either terms or price. Different things you can do there. One of the things that you can do when it comes to evaluating vendor relationships is there is a MSP guidebook that GTIA published a year or so ago that has a whole section on vendor management in it. I was privileged to help with that section of the book, and think it's pretty good when it comes to evaluating new vendors as well as evaluating existing vendors. So that's a resource you can use and go check that out. Okay, we're almost to the end. So number 10, set time in your calendar for a personal planning retreat. I'm actually doing this. I myself am doing this as part of my productivity system. I am looking at a day, even maybe two a quarter, to take and really plan the quarter. I know I said the next 30 days here on the slide, but really what I want to do is I want to intently look at those 30 days, but I also want to look at the entire quarter. Okay. And as I get towards the end of a quarter, I want to be looking at next quarter. And this is where you really need to take the time. And of course, I use the term here, why you need to do it, because you need to work on your business, not just in your business. And so this allows you to disconnect from the rest of the business and really block out that time to work on the quarterly and the monthly plans. And again, 12-week a year, can't recommend it enough. So definitely something you should do. Now, I do have a bonus that I added here because I read this book and I thought you guys really needed to hear about this. And it's creating what this guy calls a CEO dashboard. And it's from the book Get Scalable by Ryan Deese. I hope I'm saying that right. The book is great. It's another operating system. Okay. So kind of like EOS, kind of like Pinnacle and a couple of others. But definitely there's something about this dashboard concept. And you can get the dashboard for free, by the way. It's a Google Sheet template. It's very simple, but I think especially for a smaller business, the insight and how you use this is critical to any business. So you just look for Get Scalable. I forget what the website is. It might be scalable.io. I'm not sure. But this dashboard is going to help you make decisions based on the actual facts. It's going to take those things that you know you need to work on. First of all, okay, the way it kind of breaks down is you have the top things that you're going to look at are the things that have to do with the health of the business. Okay. I think in his sample, he has revenue because, of course, if you don't have money coming in and the right amount of money, that's just devastating to the business. He has revenue per employee, not profit margin, but revenue per employee, because that is a very quick and dirty gauge for how well the business is doing from a profitability standpoint. And then there can be, other things that directly relate to the health of the business right now. Then he has what are called his North Star metrics. And these are the metrics that are going to get you to where you want to be in 6, 12, 24 months. Okay. So you're keeping track of the things that are going to get you to where you want to go in the next 6, 12, 24 months. And it's your North Star. It's what is guiding your navigation of your business. And then after that, it's basically broken down by department. So sales, marketing, service delivery, whatever it is, whatever departments you have, right? Those things you're going to create metrics for those, and then you're going to have those in there. Now, This all needs to be done manually. Why does it need to be done manually? So that the people who are responsible for these numbers are putting their hands on these numbers week after week and have to answer the question, is everything good? Green? Is it yellow? It's not where it needs to be, but it's not going to take much to get it where it needs to be. And then red is, we're not going to hit this number for the quarter, for the week, quarter, month, whatever it is. He actually breaks this down by the month. So one sheet here represents a month, and you track it by week. So you're not trying to keep live real-time stats, right? You're just doing it once a week. The people responsible for the numbers are entering the numbers and giving their status, the green, yellow, red. And he actually has a light green and a light red as well. So there's a couple of varying degrees there. Hold on just a second. All right, this happens when I talk too much, and you're probably saying right now, Eric, you're talking too much. Well, this is the last slide, I promise. So, and there's a place to put target numbers here. There's a place to put the real number for the month. So you're going to have weeks, you're going to have the total for the month, and you're going to be able to look at that right next to the target. So say your target for revenue is $100,000 for the month. Okay. It is the 15th of the month, and you are at $75,000. That's a yellow. You can probably, and especially if like, yeah, we got a couple of new clients in pipeline. And so, we know we're going to close those and they're $50,000. We're going to close them in the next week. We're good. Right. But it gives you that visibility and the wherewithal to be able to make decisions about the business much, much easier. There's another thing that I like in here, that next to the column for who's responsible for the number is where do they get the number. And this is really important for situations where somebody might be on vacation, somebody leaves abruptly, so that, the next person in line or the person in charge can go to that report, to those screens, whatever it is, and grab those numbers and complete the report. This is more about psychology than it is about keeping track of numbers. Okay. And that's why it's done manually. That's why you don't just create reports and print out reports and hand them to people, because that's easy to do. What you want to do is you want to physically have people have to type these numbers in every week, and as a team, look at them every single week. And the red, yellow, green tells you exactly which ones you need to focus on, ask the right questions about, so that you can turn them back to yellow, back to green. Okay, I think I've said enough tonight. Hopefully you guys think this was useful. I really do hope that you found it useful. And if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to spend another couple of minutes answering questions if you have them. And if not, this was, we went basically 45 minutes tonight. I think that's good. I think that's a good amount of time for a live stream. We always want to finish before 8 o'clock to make sure that we make room for Uncle Marv and the podcast, or, this live stream over there. I don't think he has one tonight. I went and looked, because I always try and look so I can do a slide on his live stream to let people know that it's coming up. But that doesn't seem to be happening tonight. Like me, Uncle Marv deserves a night off every once in a while. So hopefully he is doing that. I do not see any questions in the comments. So guys, have a great evening. Have a great rest of your week. And if you have any questions about the stuff that I talked about tonight, please go ahead and put them in the comments, or you can go ahead and reach out and ask your questions in the Facebook group. Ed says, great content, or great topics and content this evening. Thank you very much, Ed. Really do appreciate that. Demetrius says, agreed. Thank you so much. And Demetrius, If I get down to the Bahamas sometime, maybe we can have a cup of coffee or something. It's been a while since I've been down there. It was very easy when I lived, 100 miles away or so, right on the coast of Florida, but it's been a while. All right. With that, again, I will say thank you very much. Have a great evening. Have a great week. If you have any questions, reach out. Hey, thanks for watching All Things MSP Live. You can reach me, Eric Anthony, at eric@allthingsmsp.com. If you're a guest, if you're a vendor, if you want to sponsor the show, let me know.